Hi, good morning. My name is Ben Kevern. I'm with Tierney Brothers. I'm the West Michigan Sales Account Manager. And I'm here today to demonstrate the CleverTouch interactive flat panel and the supplemental software. So we're looking at right here a 65-inch CleverTouch Plus Lux is the model. I'll talk a little bit about the hardware and the brand, and then I'll get into the workings of the screen and the supplemental software. So CleverTouch, we can see the brand name here. They're owned by a company called Sahara. Probably haven't heard that name or either of those names because it's a UK brand. So here in US and North America, we're familiar with Smart. That's the kind of interactive flat panel brand of the US. This is the brand of Europe, Asia, and Africa. So there's actually more of these boards in the world than there are Smart boards in the world. So just because we haven't heard of it doesn't mean it's not viable and used throughout the world. So that's the brand. Some things about the hardware. I know we're videoing this and we can't see the side panel here. Dozens of inputs, cross-functional across anything you're running currently. If you want to hook up a laptop, a PC, Chromecast, any kind of external hardware, you have the ability to hook that up. We'll see a few of the inputs here. I can show you visually a few that are over here. 3 HDMI ports, a display port, VGA, AV, and then there's also HDMI out, audio out, so you can run things from the board to external speakers and things like that. A little bit about the hardware. So this screen is unique for a couple reasons. One, the touch function, obviously it's interactive. I can touch to control the screen. The way the touch function works is there's a infrared sensor that goes all the way around the perimeter of the screen. So that's important because some of the complaints about interactive flat panels in the past were there were some calibration requirements. Some people do it with 4 cameras mounted in the corners and that shoot diagonally. That leaves you dark spots in the corners where the cameras don't hit. So this being 360 degrees, it gives you full touch capability, no lag, and we'll see some of that touch function later. The screen, everyone asks, like, it's so pretty, I don't want to break it and don't want to touch it. You don't have to worry about breaking it. It's built to last. So it's got a very thick glass panel. That's one of the things they're known for is durability. So I've done dozens of demos and banged it every single time, and we're still up here standing and running. I won't go into carts, but you can see here it's mounted on an electric cart, so I can go up and down very smoothly. It'll stay at a fixed position once I lock it in, and I'm just using a 2-button remote control back here. So there's different mount options, different cart options. It just adds to the versatility of the screen. So without further ado, I'll kind of go into the inner workings. What I'm running right now, we can almost see it from the top here. I'm running an Android module. So although a laptop is currently hooked up, none of what I'm going to show you over the next half hour is actually running off the laptop. I could completely disconnect the laptop and what you're going to see would be exactly what you would see otherwise. So this is just running the CleverTouch screen and the Android module that's plugged in as a deck to the side of the screen itself. So you'll see I use the swipe down function. It looks a lot like a tablet or a cell phone. That helps with just this feeling comfortable with it the first time you use it. It's very easily adaptable. So Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and then settings is here as well. Once again, if I go into settings, it looks like a lot like a cell phone or a tablet, where you can go into different display functions, your Wi-Fi, your Bluetooth, and things like that. Okay, these icons over here will always be here. These are like your safety buttons, to where if I hit that, I can always go home and get to where I need to go next. So we did inputs from the bottom. I showed you kind of the swipe down function from the top, which shows you what you did last, what you downloaded last, and how to hook onto Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. And the coming in from the sides is a mirrored selection screen. You can customize what icons you see here. This is the default option, which gives you access to the most common things on the board, and it's mirrored on both sides. So the teacher is not tied to one side or the other. They can access anything from either side. I'm using my finger, but the screen also, or the CleverTouch also comes with 3 pens. They're ergonomic, they feel comfortable, and there's a soft tip on them. So I'll use this as I go into the note function, which is the whiteboard of the CleverTouch board. So you can see here, I can write with my hand. I can write with a pen. Almost sounds like chalk. It's got a soft tip on it. It will write with anything, so I could use the back of the pen. So any contact point it'll write with, but you heard it's a lot more abrasive. So finger and a soft tip are the preferred writing methodologies. And if I erase all, there's 20 points of touch. So you can see no lag. I can independently write it with my left hand and the right hand simultaneously. And it's not going to affect they're not going to affect each other. There's some intuitive functions built in. So if I use the side of my hand, I can erase with a small eraser. If I use my entire hand, I can erase with a big eraser. So just as you would on a chalkboard without the chalky residue. So I used the pen first of all. It defaulted, the last thing I had was a thick blue pencil. I can change it into a thin red pencil. And then also a paintbrush that's very thick and purple. So that's the pen function. You get to choose your tip and color. They give you some default colors, but you can choose any color of the rainbow. I showed you the intuitive erase functions. There's also an erase button that gives you additional erase capabilities, such as circle or slash. So I can erase some, if I just wanted to get this dot out, I'd probably want to use the erase function, because if I use my hand, I erase more than I wanted to. The next feature is the broom, which erases everything on the slide. I always say the broom eraser got added at the same time the undo button got added, because that's everyone's least favorite accidental touch is the erase all, like, where'd everything go? So it's easy to get everything back with the undo button. You can also go forward up to a point where you have a blank screen. The geometric circle here gives you an easy way to add shapes. So circle, green, big circle, small circle. So you can make that little face. There you go. Really quickly. You can change the color. I also like the arrow feature. Very easy way to draw arrows and point. One of the nice things about the CleverTouch board is they do continuously update their product. There's actually another update coming in less than a month, and one of the features they're adding is they're adding 3-dimensional shapes as well. So you'll see a tab that says 2D, it'll show these shapes. Then there'll be a tab that says 3D, and you'll get cylinders, spheres, things like that. This bear claw, skeleton hand, I've heard it called all sorts of different things. That gives you your swipe functions. So the pinch to reduce, the expand to make larger, and then you can also swipe across. Every page on this whiteboard is an infinite page. So that's good for 2 concepts primarily. One is you have content that you want to hide from your students and not let them see when they walk into class. You can just move it to the side. And another one I like is really, really, really long math problems. So you can just keep going all the way across the page and solve your answer. We have had people get lost. You know, where's my content? If you touch the bear claw again, it gives you this overview, and you can always come and find your content that way. Okay. We're almost done here with the bottom row. This art icon, I call it an art curtain. You'll see why. If I hit this up arrow, it kind of comes up like a curtain, so it really just drapes over the top of your lesson. And what you get here is just some additional styluses. So the first one being a colored pencil. We all know how a colored pencil works, where if you do a fast drag, you get kind of a lighter mark, and if you do a slow, firmer press, you get a darker mark. This reacts in the same way. Same thing with a paintbrush. If I go ahead and change my thickness and do paint strokes, you can actually see the paintbrush aspect to it. And I can get some kind of lighter blotted lines too. So it's just more artistic page if you've got some creative students or different applications. When I play Pictionary with my family on here, we bounce back and forth between the art curtain and the standard notepad. So once again, I can just lift that up and I'm back to my lesson. That finishes the bottom row here, besides the cursor. The cursor works similarly to the erase function, but it just lets you select and group different objects. You can then change their color or change their size and move them. So that's the cursor. You haven't got the full visual as to lesson creation until I do this. So if I hit the 1 over 1, you can see I'm actually just making slides. So I just, with the plus button, I just added 4 slides very quickly. And similar to a PowerPoint, you can select any slide and then go ahead and continue on. So if we look here, 4th slide, I added a 4. Back to the first slide. Okay? The only other things we haven't gone over is this is almost like the file button where you get save options, open options, things like that. You have the ability, this one just says new, but you have the ability to add different folders to this drop down, and you can call them whatever you want, but that would give you one-click access to saving them in different folders, different classes, different periods. Same thing with cloud storage. You have the ability to, with one press, save it to your Google Drive. This background feature is not really a saving or opening feature, but it's pretty slick. So we can easily change our background color. And not only can you change color, you can change templates. So popular one is music. You can draw music notes. You can do a nice math grid. And then also there's, you can practice your handwriting as well for younger students. Okay, so pretty cool features there. That is a nice overview of Note. That's the whiteboard function of the CleverTouch board. So I'm going to use my arrows here to then exit out and go home. And then we can move on to the next section, which is files. So one thing to note here is that the CleverTouch board does have its own internal memory, so you can save things to the board. They recommend that you primarily use the board memory for apps. This has its own app store, and I'll show you that here in a minute. So that's a good thing to use board memory for. I usually keep a USB stick on me. On the side here, there's easy access USB ports. So you'll see as I stick entry my USB port, it gives me another storage location. So this USB one wasn't here until I put in my stick. Okay? So I'm going to access my thumb drive, and then I have a few things saved on here. I'm going to open up a 4K video to show you the screen resolution and then also the built-in speakers. So these are in your way, you can move them down and out of the way. So very good video quality. There's a few different ways to increase the sound. I pulled up from the bottom. So you can hear the audio is definitely loud enough to fill a classroom. If you're doing a media center, it's probably not enough sound to fill a whole media center, but you can always tie in the auxiliary speakers. So obviously 4K video quality, and then what's nice is I do have these touch panels. Now what I can do here is, in the middle of the video, I can choose my annotation. So it just immediately stops the video, and then I can change the color of my marker, and then I can go ahead and right over the top of the video I can teach. So I can either save this as an image and use it later, or I can exit out, takes my annotations away, and then allows me to just keep on going. Another powerful feature of my options here is the screen capture or snip. So similarly, if I choose that, it stops the video. If I want this for my rock lesson, I can either save it to the stick or the board, or I can hit this presentation icon, and that'll take it immediately back to my lesson. So right where I was, I have the ability to move, swipe, and it's in my lesson. The next feature I'll show you is these two rectangles over the top of each other. It's an icon we're familiar with our cell phones. It's the active windows. So that's the fastest way for me to get back to my movie. Active windows, I have the Rolodex of my active windows, and I can go back to my movie. So you see the seamlessness of the interchange, different features that you can stop and teach and get back to where you were. Okay? So I'll go back to my files. There's a couple more. Similarly, I can open up a PowerPoint. Pretty straightforward. You can play it like a normal PowerPoint. And then to go to different slides, you can swipe. That'll move you forward just by touching the screen. Or you have the ability to kind of up, down on the side here with these toolbars. But once again, I do have the annotation icon. So if I want to talk about here, I can annotate. The one I haven't shown yet is a highlighter. So if you're doing text either on a web page or in a lesson, you'll see the difference. I can highlight here as opposed to annotate, which goes over the top of the words. Okay. So that's just showing you can use things that you currently have on the screen very easily by opening them up. The last one I have, you can probably get the idea, it's a PDF file. That's nice to reuse. You can solve problems with the annotation feature, tracing, and then it's very easy to then clear the screen and have the next student come up. All right, that's all I wanted to show in the files section. So we've done the whiteboard, notepad, the files section showing onboard memory, and then accessing files off of my thumb drive. The next one's a browser. Pretty straightforward, but it just shows the capability that this board does have a built-in browser. I use this, similar to my own browser. I have a keyboard that pops up. I can move it out of the way if I want to see what I'm typing. But if I can search for anything on the web, works like a normal web browser. Google Images is very popular, and I can go ahead and grab any image. And then I do have these annotation options. So if I want to do a snip and grab this lion and take him back to my lesson, I can get him. There he is. I'm going to sit on top of the rock here. So standard web browser, pretty straightforward there. I'm not going to teach you how to use a web browser, but it is a nice feature to have to bounce back between Note and the browser. CleverStore. This is interactive flat panels built-in app store. This is a very powerful feature. Not a lot of interactive flat panels have this. What you have here is over 200 free, all free, educational, no ads, and they're right-sized for this screen. And that's a big one because you can load any app on here, even if it's not in this Play Store. Like people ask me, can I load Netflix? Can I load? Yeah, you can load it. it might not be right size for this screen. So everything you get out of here will work seamlessly and fit this page. So like I said, over 200 apps. I've gotten lost in here just downloading and playing and seeing what each one does. It's a very powerful feature. There is a search function to help narrow it down for you. So I heard we're doing math for younger kids. We'll prefer the English language. And then you're narrowed down to very applicable apps. So if I don't have it downloaded, let's see if I have this one downloaded. So this is what it would look like. Just like you're downloading any app, you'd hit free download, the ticker bar would go, and then it would prompt you to install it after it's downloaded. For ones you do have downloaded, you'll see just an open app. We can access this from the apps section of the homepage as well. But since we're here, I'll go ahead and open the 4th grade learning games app, just so you can get a feel for some of the apps. So audio and visual, you'll see. So each app is lots of things built into one. So graphs and grids for 4th graders.
Which player scored 6 goals?
Okay, so pretty straightforward. And it's tricky because the answer's not there, where each one ball is worth 3. So we know it's Kevin for 6.
Awesome. Track the shapes.
This is one of my favorites, just plotting coordinates, because this is a very interactive part of this app. So you can invite students up to plot these points on the graph, 4 by 4. And then there's positive reinforcement. If I do get it wrong, you get a kind of a boing wrong, but you do get to try again.
You're right.
I'm getting lost in my demo right now, and I'm just playing, but you get the idea of just customized, specific age group, subject, apps available for free with one-click download. Okay, so that's the power of the App Store. I can help with suggestions if you're looking for something specific. I haven't found a request that couldn't be fulfilled within the App Store. Active windows, we already went over that, just a different way to access your open windows. And then once again, it's swipe to close. And then there is this at the bottom, close all. And just a few more things here, and then we're wrapping up the contents of running off the Android module on the Clever Touch board itself. Screen lock, if I hit that, it would prompt me for a 4-digit PIN. I'm not going to do it because this board goes to multiple places, so all you would do is set password, 4-digit PIN, and then you can easily lock your board, leave the room, and all your login and lessons are safe. Apps. So I mentioned through the App Store I could find the ones I have and open them from the App Store. I can also see everything I have here. Once again, similar to a cell phone or tablet, all your active apps. You can hold long press and then drag to create folders to organize your apps better. As easy as that. So I'll do at least one more app. This is a pretty powerful one. So as I transition from the actual Clever Touch board and the software that runs off the board itself into this offline laptop software that comes free with the Clever Touch board, this is a good segue called Lessons Online. This was offline software only. So this was something that you'd have to run on your PC or laptop and then hook your screen up, or hook your laptop up to the screen to then display. They've since converted, this is part of the recurring updates I talked about, they've since converted this software into an app that runs on the Clever Touch board. So if I open that up, this is exactly the, I apologize, I'll sign in quickly here. Oh, luckily it remembered me. Okay, so I'm logged in now. So this is exactly what you would see on your computer. This is a cloud-based piece of software, and that's really, really nice that they've created an app to run facing them on all sides. Okay, so we'll do split screen first. It literally mirrors this application on two different screens, and they work completely independently of each other. So I'll swipe from left to right here and right to left here, and you can see that we can do it simultaneously. So I've literally created two independent interactive flat panels with a split screen functionality. We can see it if I use, I'll run one app over here, Math Bugs, and I'll run another app over here, Numbers. So if I go ahead and get both of these started, Math Bugs, I'm trying to find multiples, so multiples of 10. And over here, I'm trying to create answers to these problems with the balloon drops. So I'll ask my assistant over here to find multiples of 10 over here. Do you mind doing that?
No.
So go ahead, and then I'll be busy over here trying to find answers to the problem. 1 times 7. So you can see we're both completing our game with no impact on each other. So it's really a way to get more out of your board with multiple fingers, multiple students at the board at the same time. Okay? If I close this app, I can not impact what they're doing over here. And we can go right back to zones and go to a single screen very easily, running the only active app. Okay? Same way, you get the idea. Quadrants, we can get this really crazy. So let's get some music here. I want piano up here, drums up here. Let's do a whiteboard down here. And how about, let's do the Untangle game down here. So completely different functionalities all over the place. If I could get my toes out, I would, and then the Untangle game here. So everyone's doing something at the same time. Just completely, as wild as you want to get, you can get. So that's the snowflake function. A lot of different apps, some educational, some fun. And then there's a way to do, so I can close out of each one, or from here, I can do zones to just go back to a single screen. All right, the last one I'll show you here is lessons. This is another look at that lessons app that we saw on the Android side, on the CleverTouch side. One thing I didn't show you, and this reminded me, was you can create your own lessons, save your own lessons. Talked about the remote feature of that. Another powerful thing is you can search and pull other teachers' lessons. So if you're teaching algebra, calculus, things like that, you can search for that subject, look at what other teachers have published, download their lesson, and then you can edit their lesson. So if they're 90% of the way there and you just have to tweak it to your class and where you are, you don't have to recreate the wheel, pull their lesson, tweak it, make it your own, and then use it. So that's called the Lessons Online community. This is just sorted by the newest. You can see U.S. government, trade tools, space physics, human diagrams, all sorts of subjects are already out there that you don't have to do yourself. Same thing, sign in, you recognize this login, sign in, create lesson, or import the lesson. So that concludes, and then if I use this home feature, I can get off my computer and back to the Android side with one click without even having to do the input switch. So it's very user-friendly and intuitive. I will stop there, and I appreciate your attention. Run off the board, and you have access on your laptop or PC by just logging into a website. for a couple reasons. You can work at different locations and access the same files. So a scenario that a teacher came up with of where this would help her was she gets sick at 6 or 7 p.m. the night before and doesn't have any content left at school because she wasn't planning on getting sick. So goes on her laptop or PC at home, goes to this website, creates a lesson, saves it, and then just notifies the school or the substitute teacher, just go on to this app and load lesson XYZ. And the transition happens over the cloud. Teacher doesn't have to come into school to do anything. It's already loaded on the app because it's on the same cloud, whether you're accessing it from home or accessing it from the screen. So there's 2 things you can do on this. You can create a lesson. They've given you a lot of templates, which is really nice. Some of them we're familiar with, so you can do a kind of fill in the blank hangman type of word guessing game. Scramble, so all the letters are scrambled and you got to find different words within the array of letters. Drop, I'll show you an example of that. It's a matching game that I've created some lessons to. So a lot of cool templates where you don't have to recreate the wheel. You can just add in your words or your content into their templates. So if I go back into my lessons, I'll show you a few examples. The first one here I created was my seating chart. I have 9 kids in my classroom. Here are all their names, and with one click I can rearrange the seating chart without being the bad guy or the bad girl of who has to sit next to who. So blame it on the board, you can rearrange your seating chart. Other thing, a big problem is picking kids in class, they don't like to be chosen. You don't have to be the bad person. You can hit this select button and it will randomize and say, Liam, the board chose you. Go solve this problem. So it's something that if you're not using the board for anything else, you could have this up there just to facilitate that type of activity. That's a really simple one. The next one I'll show you is more subject-based. So I created a matching game for state capitals. So you see here the capitals in the center wheel and then these post-it notes all over the place for the actual states. So it's a drag and drop game, and I get check mark for a correct answer. You're allowed to get wrong answers, and then it lets you take it off and then try it again. So pretty straightforward, but like I said, I customized this content myself. I used one of the matching template, and you get a successful completion type of. One touch to restart, so it's easy to cycle students through the activity quickly. I created this lesson in less than 3 minutes. Okay, so that's an example of lessons. Polls, I won't show you the time. That's a way to get active and immediate responses from your students in real time. So if you're trying to gather their ability to move on to the next subject, you want to test their kind of recollection of what you just taught them, you can, in seconds, open up a poll, type in the question, make it multiple choice or yes, no, and then the students then go to a very simple website. It's, I think, 6 letters is all. They type it into their phone or their tablet, a 4-digit PIN, which is custom to that poll, will be their entry key into that question. Once they're logged in, you hit start, and that poll question will go immediately to their device. So their phone, their tablet, they select an answer, and then you can hit results, and it shows percentages, who got it wrong, right, wrong, and then you can choose to move on, or you can choose to, elaborate on what you just did again. So that's poll. So that's, once again, I've shown you 2 apps out of over 200 that the CleverTouch App Store has. Lessons Online was the last one, creating your own lesson content in a cloud base, and then 4th grade learning games. We saw that. We're officially at the bottom of the screen. The only other thing that's left is favorites, and you can see the plus sign. You can add, as long as this board is wide, you can add your favorite apps for one-touch access. All right, I would do any questions, but we're gonna move on to the software that comes free with the CleverTouch board. That's a big differentiator. There's no recurring license fees for this software. So it comes free, and then annually you don't have to pay to keep the license. It's one of the things that they hang their hat on, and it's a differentiator for the CleverTouch brand. All right. So now I'm moving to the laptop. So we're officially going off of the screen, and the brains of what we'll be running is the connected device. If I go to my inputs, I can see, obviously I was running the Android module the whole time. I have a blue dot under HDMI 1, so I know that's what my laptop is connected to. So let's go ahead and select our second input, and we will see my laptop. Everything I see on my screen, you're seeing on the CleverTouch screen. So there's two ways I can drive. You know, I'm using my mouse over here to point and click, and what's really cool is I can actually control my laptop on the screen. So I have ability to select different icons using the touch feature of the screen. So I can leave my laptop plugged in and then drive over here. The first one I'll show you is Links. This is another app, another piece of software for lesson creation. This mirrors Smart Notebook almost one-to-one. So the reason this was created is for those folks married to Smart Notebook. It gives them a comp to be able to continue those lessons. My double click is off. There we go. I'll probably do most of the driving over at the laptop, so I'm just going to create a new lesson. This lesson creation, you're not meant to create a lesson at the CleverTouch screen. This is something you would do after school hours or at home, and just create the lesson before class. But there's a lot of cool features. I'll show you some of them as we work through here. So the main canvas is to the right, and then there's a toolbar over here to the left. I just hit this web search icon on the left, and it opened up a Google portal for me. So once again, I can do a Google search, images, and what's nice here is I can easily drag and drop images into my lesson. Makes it really convenient for quick image storage. I can make it a little more artsy, gives me the rotational feature, things like that. In the corner, that white box in the corner is the same thing as right click. So it gives you additional features here, including clone, which would then just create a second image of the same one. Okay. Another one right below web search on the left is online media. This is really slick because if I hit this camera right here, you can see all the different types of media I can add really quickly. Images, pretty much similar to a Google image search, but more quickly and without having to go through Google. YouTube, I can add YouTube videos, same thing, they'll populate. I can drag and drop, add a video, GIFs, and clip art. So I'll stay with my theme and select GIFs, and we'll do cats again. So with typing in one thing, I can add in Star Wars Ninja cats. Pretty entertaining. And same thing here. I can resize and go from there. Resize down here. Here we go. There we go. So you can see how quickly you can add content to a lesson. I mean, within 2 minutes I have images, GIFs, I can add YouTube videos, and start creating lesson content. Some of the other features I like are up here. I do like this Sentence table, you can do numbers and multiplication tables the same way. But if I choose a sentence table, I just type in a fact. So the capital of Michigan is Lansing. Just typing that in, and then hit add. I can drag that down here, and then utilize the touch function with what they call the revealer. So you can blank out different words within that sentence to basically create questions and prompt your students for answers. So I could type in, dozens of sentences with preloaded and, Xing out different words maybe do states and capitals differently. And then you get, with one touch, you get that dramatic reveal of the answer. I'll show you, here's there's spotlight and curtain. You can change the size of the spotlight, but if you want to be more dramatic or search for answers or things like that, you can use the spotlight, and the curtain allows you to show some content but not all. Go that way. The last one I'll show you, and you can see there's dozens of things on the toolbar. We could spend hours on this. If I go to the tools over here and use my writing icon, so you'll see now I have the pencil selected. I can choose my color, choose my width, but once again I have the writing function back. If I choose this R right here, I think it stands for recognize, and so whatever I write now, it's going to attempt to recognize my handwriting. So let's see how I did. So it's that writing to text converter. And then I believe if I get a mathematical equation, it would actually convert the mathematical equation and then use this revealer function. Would actually solve the answer without me writing it. Okay? So links, L, Y, and X, lesson creation. Okay? All right, we will close out of this. I really want to save it because it's a masterpiece, but I'll just do it later. The next one is Clever Maths. All one word, Clever Maths, M-A-T-H-S. And this has different tools for 4 different subjects. So if I hit this toolbar over here, English, math, chemistry, and physics are the main subjects, and then another whiteboard. There's really no reason to use this whiteboard. You can use the more sophisticated whiteboard on the back end screen, but it works similarly. So if I go into, I'll start with math. Every one of these subsets has a toolbox. So if I go into the math toolbox, you'll get to see all my tools at my disposal. So I like the compass. It shows essentially the power of the compass. Hopefully my arm's not in the way, but I can change the radius of my compass. So if I want to draw a 3 centimeter radius circle, I can easily do that. Same thing, I can move and draw another circle that's a little wider, 5 centimeters, and draw that circle, and then exit out of my compass. So now I have 2 circles, I know exactly what the radius is. I can then have students come up and use a different tool, their ruler, and then they can measure what I just did. So 3 centimeters radius should be 6 centimeters diameter. You can see it measures perfectly. There we go. 5 to 10. Another useful one in here is the function graph. It takes you to a different page, but you can see the coordinate system comes up here. What I like about this is if I hit the function application, it gives me the geometric functions, and very quickly I can graph, there's my X, I can graph that and hit the check mark, and then we can see if I exit out of here the sign graph. This is my zoom function, so I can go in and out, and then if I wanted to quickly overlay another, let me see if it just does, there we go, sin x times 2. I can quickly check mark, overlay sin x times 2 over the top. I still have my annotation features here, so I can teach, highlight. So you can see the graph is not written over the top of with the highlighter. But that's another tool within the math section of Clever Maths. Here's some three-dimensional objects. So I mentioned in Note there'll be some three-dimensional objects. This is a nice glimpse at what's being added to the Note function. So red sphere, easy as that. All right, let's go back to here and let's chemistry and physics. These are still being developed, but we can see you have the ability to create an entire chemistry lab in the virtual world. Beakers, burners, connecting tubes, and things like that. So if you want to replicate a lab before you're about to do it in real life and practice, this is the way to do it safely and without the fumes. We can add atomic structures and a periodic table very quickly. And we can essentially cycle with the plus sign the different elements and talk about valence electrons. Just like that. Physics is similar. Like I said, it's being built up so we don't see the volume that the chemistry set had, but you do have the ability right now to basically create a circuit and measure amperage and voltage. This will, I'm sure, grow with time as the software gets developed further. The last one I haven't done yet is English. So we get a canvas here. We have the ability to add lines to our paper as before. This adds one additional function though. We saw this type of setup in the Note function on the CleverTouch Android side. So if I hit this A, we will get this text writing to text conversion. And then there's one piece that gets added here. If I turn my volume up. So I get this X to delete it, pencil to edit it, and then I get this audio piece. So if I hit that,
Hello.
we get the
Hello.
hello audio piece. And I thought to myself, that's a pretty powerful feature if a kid's learning to spell, because the only way they know if they spell something correctly is to get told so. The teacher would have to say, no, that's wrong, or this is how that sounds. Now they can practice their writing. If the board doesn't recognize their letters, they're not doing them properly. So they get to self-teach their properness on letter development. And then when they get the letter development correct, they can hear an audio playback. Did I spell that correctly? Does it sound right? If it doesn't sound right, what doesn't sound right? And then they can self-correct. So that's pretty powerful for teaching spelling and proper grammatical. And once again, the teacher doesn't have to be the bad person. I've heard teachers basically create the board as this own robotic person, and their grading methodology is if the board says it's right, it's right. If the board says it's wrong, it's wrong. So then it basically becomes this universal, don't have to argue with the student about right and wrong. All right, so we did links, lesson creation. This is Clever Maths. There's one more piece of software that I'll show you that I think you'll enjoy. If I exit out, it's called Snowflake Multi-Teach. So we just say Snowflake in this world. Snowflake thinks it's pretty cool and needs its own entrance music apparently. So this is essentially a pinwheel of preloaded apps. Some of them are really good. I'll show you, this is what Snowflake is known for, is zones. So if we hit zones, you get split screen, four-way screen, and there is a tabletop mount that we can put this board on. And as we rotate this board down into a table, we can sit students on opposite sides of the table and have their quadrant of the screen